We're live. Are we live?
Let's just wait a minute, make sure that the... Yeah, I think we are live. Jordan, look at you. You look like a new man. How are you?
I feel like a new man. I've been slept in a normal bed and sat in a normal toilet and had a proper wash.
It must feel... Yeah, sorry, darling. It must feel very, very... Gosh. Here, let's start again. Here we are with Jordan WYLIE, who is part of the Great British Paddle. Sadly, back at home, but we all know the reasons for that. We've all had our lives impacted by COVID, and you know, paddled through COVID. You probably had the better time of everybody, you know, having a massive adventure. But you are back at home because of the rules and regulations, and you know, you're very good about that. But let's just go back. Let's just go back to a few days before you were stopped from paddling. And you'd had quite a tough time, hadn't you, of not paddling. The sea, the weather, the conditions were horrendous. But you suddenly got a couple of days, didn't you, of paddling?
Yeah.
Days. Talk about those.
Yeah, the last sort of probably 3 or 4 weeks was really tough, actually. Not so much physically, more mentally, psychologically, because we just weren't able to move. I think on that north coast of Scotland, I think we paddled maybe 3 times in more than 3 weeks, maybe. You know, it was a lot of sitting, a lot of waiting, a lot of seasickness. It was not pleasant at all. But I think, you know, I really learned a lot about sort of patience, discipline, perseverance, and you know, if you respect the elements, and as I say, if you're patient and you're disciplined, you just have to wait for those opportunities to come. And what the challenge really for us was that I'd come around Cape Wrath and I took quite a wide berth on it, because it was too dangerous to get in tight around the headland at Cape Wrath. And because I took a wide berth and there's a lot of tidal movement around there, it meant that as I went round onto the north coast, I was quite far out, and the tide had pushed me, because there was a southerly wind. It pushed me about 6 or 7 kilometres offshore. And the problem then was, and Charlie Head had said to me, who was going the other way a week earlier, he said, you need to try and get on the coastline in tight against the cliffs, because then you'll be able to paddle when there's a southerly, because you can use the shelter of the cliffs. And because I took such a wide berth to get round Cape Wrath, I was just too far out from the cliffs to then make progress. So I had to wait maybe 7 to 10 days to be able to get a window to then paddle the sort of 7-8 kilometers back in to the coastline to then start making progress. But that window just seemed to take forever, and we were stuck at anchor for a long time. And yeah, it wasn't pleasant. And but when we did get the opportunity, there was a local kayaker, who came, and it was amazing. A local kayaker, Lee, from up near Thurso, he gave me a little guided tour, and I made like 2 or 3 days in a row. I made a good 25, 35 kilometers, and you know, I was 23 kilometers from General Groats when we finished at the end. And but yeah, it was a real tough, probably mentally the toughest part of it was that north coast, I think, of just sitting and waiting and not moving for so long, especially at Christmas time, when you can see, you know, you got social, now and again you'd get the signal, so you could see social media, everyone's houses getting warmer and cozier and families getting together. But you know, no regrets. Amazing adventure.
And very tough for the team as well. You all worked amazingly well as a team. I mean, you had drop-ins and drop-outs, didn't you? Had people coming and going from the boat, obviously very, very carefully and socially aware of, you know, the rules and regulations. But all your team that you've had have been incredible, haven't they? You've all worked really, really well together. Yeah, they've
incredible.
Quite amazing, haven't they, for you?
Yeah, every single one of them, absolute, in my eyes, absolute legends, you know, committed and dedicated professionals who gave so much to the project, whether they were on the boat, you know, in the sort of thick of it at the coalface, or on shore with PR, websites, sorting out harbours, sorting out sponsors, psychology, you name it. We had the most amazing team. And do you know, if I ever wanted to go on a world-class expedition or adventure again, I would pick exactly the same people at every stage, because they were all incredibly, they were amazing. I can't even really put into words how it makes me quite emotional. I can feel quite emotional talking about them, actually, because you know, I miss a lot of them as well. You know, we had some great relationships there. I mean, quite emotional actually. That you triggered a few, you pulled on the old heartstrings there. But that's something I really miss actually about the expedition, because I think for me, people often say, don't they, it's the journey, it's not the destination. But for me, it's always about the people. It's about the people you meet and the people you work with, because that's what make the best adventures. So, you know, and especially big shout out for the cameramen, Alfie and James. Big shout out for everybody. But I think Alfie and James, what was amazing is they were able for the public to share in the journey. You know, the work they did allowed so many people around the world to come on the journey. They captured some incredible footage, photography, filmmaking, and you would never know, you know, the conditions that they were operating in, because, you know, it was brutal. You know, some of the storms and the winds and the tides, and God, the conditions that they operate in. I couldn't do that. I could not be on that boat and function and have to do editing and have to make films and things. Looking at my screen for a couple of minutes was enough to make me sick. So how they did all that, you know, whilst going through everything else was quite magnificent, really.
Amazing. Yeah, I picked those two up as well, because we waited eagerly for those films from day one. As soon as we knew there was going to be a regular film, we were just on it, and we just loved everyone. I think episode 20 has to be my absolute favorite. But yeah, check them out on YouTube, Jordan WYLIE's YouTube channel, and you can catch up with the whole journey if you're not aware of it, which you should be. So again, now back to last Wednesday. Well, it's really before Wednesday. You were constantly in contact with the Scottish Government. You knew that the rules were changing all the time, and you were very professional about that. You knew you had to be. You've got a team around you who've all got jobs and livelihoods that they need to look after. Christmas is coming. What happened? Why did you have to stop?
Yeah, you know, obviously a great shame and very frustrating. I think before we stopped, it probably was about 48 hours before we'd had a few people contact us saying, you know, COVID regulations are changing in Scotland. The whole country is going into a national lockdown. A couple of the harbour masters had informed us that people were a bit concerned of our movements in certain areas. The next harbour master had also raised concerns that we were coming from one town and going into another sort of jurisdiction. And obviously my team as well. My team were quite concerned. You know, that we got people with professional qualifications on there, people like the skipper who had to move the boat around. You know, he didn't want to compromise his license, understandably. We had Scottish nationals on board again who, you know, didn't want to be breaking Scottish law, and of course never did I. And ultimately we got told by we got an email and we got a few phone calls, and then there was too much sort of ambiguity. There was too many grey areas, and we needed some clarification. So I believe we did what the right thing was to do. We wrote a letter to Nicola Sturgeon's office and explained who we are, what we were doing. They were already aware of what we were doing, and we asked for permission to continue. And unfortunately, we didn't get that permission. And although we had probably 48 hours we could have continued and we could have gone to John O'Groats, I just felt that, you know, to go on for 2 more days, it would be, you know, we would get a world record, a world first, but actually it would detract away from the why we were doing this. And that was to always inspire young people through the gift of education overseas and the spirit of adventure back home. And I think that was much more important than for any of us to get any kind of certificate or award or applause. And because I think we'd be sat here now talking about a world first, because we had the media, we had lots of big media outlets waiting to go to John O'Groats to cover the story. And that wasn't what it was about. And I think for us, it was always about inspiring hope through what we were doing. And to stop 23 kilometers short, hopefully that sent out a stronger message that you know, it was always, I think it wasn't about what we did. It wasn't about the Great British Paddle. It was about why we were doing it. And that's what I wanted people to take away from it. And that was the most important thing. And that was why I think the team was brilliant as well, because, you know, a lot of the team, that was a big sacrifice on them. It wasn't just my decision. It was the team decision that we would stop, because again, they'd invested 5-6 months of their lives in a, you know, what was a world record attempt. And these are all adventure people with, you know, with sort of projects and portfolios, reputations. So a world record, don't get me wrong, it was important. It was important to people, to some people, and to the media and to the charities, because ultimately that's why we got so many people supporting us, because we were trying to do what no one had done before successfully. But we take a lot of pride that we paddled longer and harder and further on the open ocean than anyone ever has before on a stand-up paddleboard, and that we take a lot from that still, and we'll tell that story. But ultimately, it was about inspiring hope, and hopefully, we've done that.
I think you absolutely have. Now, in my mind and in many other people's minds, there is no question, once you've done that really tough northwest corner of Scotland, that you would make this journey, you would finish. I have absolutely no doubt that you would have done it. So that's a great thing to have in your bag, that you would have done it. Let's give some stats here. You paddled for 149 days, 7 hours, 36 minutes. You were only 23 kilometres away from John O'Groats. So once you stopped, you had to pack up the boat and get yourselves home. As you say, we were all getting ready for Christmas, and or not. As a couple of days before Christmas, we were told, further COVID rules and lockdown. Packing up the boat must have been quite an emotional thing. Leaving your guys must have been quite emotional, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think the last sort of people on the boat was myself and Max, Alfie and Mia, and yeah, it was very emotional, getting the boat prepared. We just spent, because we thought we were going into a complete lockdown for the next 2 months. We'd actually just done the biggest shop we'd ever done, and filled the boat up with all fresh rations for the next. We had enough rations to get us all the way back to Essex. We'd just done the big super shop because we knew the whole world had gone into a national sort of lockdown. But we did a good deed. We took it to a Scottish food bank, and we give all the food, and we cleared the boat out, and we give £1,000 worth of food to people less fortunate. But it was very emotional, saying goodbye, cleaning the boat and tidying it up. It had been our home for 5-6 months, and but yeah, and a big thank you as well to the Royal Logistics Corps who supplied that boat, because that boat is still in Scotland, and actually Max and Alex and Darren, the 3 skippers, at some point that they need to sail that boat back to Southampton. So that's still up there in Scrabster Harbour, just outside Thurso. And it was, as much as I wasn't a big fan of living on that boat, it was a great home to us, and it was a great logistical base that allowed us to have that adventure. But I won't be in a hurry to go and live on a boat for 6 months again.
And I'm guessing around that part of the coastline is easier to be in a boat. Obviously South Coast, much easier to travel it, with a van and whatever. But so fast forward for a 17-hour road trip home with Max, and you get home and suddenly you're back at home and having Christmas with your family, the people that you love. That must have been, even I'm getting emotional. It must have been amazing.
Amazing. I live on my own, so I got back here, and I got back in my house. Max dropped me off very kindly. Max did most of the driving. Fair play to him. I don't know how he does it, but he literally drove for about 17 hours, straight. And I dropped me off at home, unloaded the world's amount of kit, and then I just went. It was about 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 in the morning when we got back from leaving in the afternoon the day before, and I can remember just getting in my bed, and then I thought, you know what, I'm gonna have a beer. And I went downstairs, and I had a beer, and I landed in my bed at about 6 in the morning, have a beer, and I just sat there for an hour thinking and reflecting and sort of just absorbing what we'd done. But there is there's no negative feelings towards it having to stop. I think a lot of people, the first question is, you must be devastated, you must be gutted. But I don't have any negative feelings towards what happened. The world is in a global pandemic. I've been very fortunate to have this adventure, and it is what it is, as they say. I think to have anything negative would detract from the good we did. So I think it's important to stay positive, and I am positive. I'm not just saying that I want to be positive. I actually genuinely positive from the whole experience. I think we know that
from your. I think we know that from your whole journey. What a positive man you are, and what you will often. If there is a negative, you will either push it away if it's a person, or you will change it into an amazing positive. So,
and I think that was one of the just to mention on that point, I think working with Paula Reed, the adventure psychologist, I think that was something that I really never thought much about before the Great British Paddle. And I've done, lots of really cool adventures around the world, in different parts of the world, in extreme remote conditions. But psychology was never something I don't want to say give much time or respect to, but it was just something that I was aware of but didn't really embrace. And it was something that I will definitely take from the Great British Paddle and Paula's work, the ability to be able to reframe negative thoughts into neutral or positive ones, to look at things from a different perspective and feel differently about it. I a testament to Paula, because she gave me so many tools that I now have in my sort of mental psychological toolbox that I can rely on, not just being on adventures, but in all aspects of life, and in family, in business, in love, or whatever it is. I think if you can reframe your thoughts and control, the way you think and feel is very powerful, I think.
Do you think that will help you mentally? Because it's you've not kept it a secret that, you do struggle from you have struggled from mental health issues, and how the benefits of paddling have helped you enormously. And do you think now that your toolbox will now help you with those issues?
100%. I think, I think I'm so much more, I feel wiser from the experience, just in life, just in working with people, in understanding people, and understanding myself and what makes me tick. I feel much more wiser from the whole experience of it. And psychology is a massive part of everything, not just adventure but life. And I feel much more resilient as a person. I feel that I can deal with more things. I can deal with negatives. I think often, I've come to learn it's just our perspective. Most things aren't that negative. It's just that we tell ourselves it's a negative thing, so it has to be negative, and we've all got to be miserable. It's like I was saying to somebody yesterday. Everybody's complaining about COVID, which is understandable, but actually, there are still positive things. Most people see the family more than they've ever seen before. And also, if you can't think of something positive, I think gratitude is another great tool. To be grateful for things is another way of reframing, because if you have got a roof over your head, if you're eating hot meals every day, if you've not lost your loved ones, well, then you're better off than a lot of people. And again, just being grateful for where you are is, even though you might have some challenges with jobs, employment, people are losing lives, so that's that's tragic. So just to be grateful and have a sense of gratitude is another one to be aware of, I think, often.
Yeah. It's been a massive year for everybody, hasn't it? So, right, let's talk fundraising. So as soon as your trip finished, your fundraising rose a little bit. Or
it trebled.
Well, apart from that, let's get on to that in a minute. But it just went up by, I think it was a couple of £1,000. Anyway, it became more buoyant because you were... there may have been this sort of feeling sorry factor. A lot of people are converting their money that they pledged for you to finish your journey. They pledged it and they then gave it to you anyway. And then we had the Kay Burley effect. I mean, that was, I've never watched The Chase. It took me a couple of goes to understand what on earth was going on. But obviously I'd seen the social media post about Kay being on. I know your time with her. And in a minute, you can just let me know how you met her and your friendship. But if anybody doesn't know, suddenly your pot was incredibly richer because of that incredible program and the fact that they give celebrities the chance to win money for a charity. And I watched it, and they had a great team, and they did some great teamwork and some great answers. Very intelligent people, but a bit of luck as well. How do you know Kay? I've obviously seen her on Sky News and interviewing you. So where did you meet Kay?
Yeah, so I met Kay Burley. She was on Hunted. She was on Celebrity Hunted about 3 years ago, maybe 3-4 years ago. And I was one of the hunters that was chasing her. And as she will remind you every time, I didn't catch her, but she didn't win. She got outed by the public, unfortunately, when a Warburton's delivery driver grassed her in where she was. But yeah, we built up a great friendship. Kay takes a she has a rough ride. She's a journalist, you know, love him or hate him. She takes a rough ride and gets a lot of stick. But on a personal level, she is an incredible woman. On a professional level as well, sorry, she's an incredible woman. She does a lot for charity without ever shouting from the rooftops about it. She gets no kudos and does an incredible amount of work for good causes that often goes unrecognised. And she rang me and she said, she texted me saying, how much are you short of your fundraising? I said about 60 odd, £70,000 I need to raise to finish the school, because we've been working towards the school for a couple of years. It's actually the 100,000 was the last piece of the jigsaw to finish the school. And I said, you know, I need about 60, 70,000. And watch it. And she said, well, you might want to watch the chase on Christmas Day. You might, you know, because I want to support the project. And obviously we tuned in, and she went for 60,000, which was the highest and their team won the most that anyone's ever won on the chase, which was incredible. Yeah. And normally people don't go for the higher amount. They always go safe. And I said to her, why did you go for the higher amount? Because that's risky, because you normally get caught quicker by the chaser. And she said, well, you told me you needed 60,000. It was my 60th birthday this year. I thought it was a sign. So I thought we better go for it. You know, and what an incredible act of kindness to donate 50,000, you know, which was her cut of the share to the project. I can't thank her enough. And incredible, especially in these challenging times. You know, it's unbelievable, really.
Yeah, it was really, really exciting to watch once I got the concept of the, you know, how it worked, and just to see them win that and know that suddenly there was 50,000 in the pot, and it was literally from the moment she won it, it was physically transferred into that pot. So suddenly, you know, you look at the donation link, and suddenly you're up at £81,335, which is not far short of your 100k that you need. It's just amazing. So yeah, thank you, Kay Burley, for doing that. We're big up Kay Burley. Now, the other thing that you're doing, so obviously the fundraising is going to go on, and we, like lots of other people, will just be supporting that, and we will hopefully get you there. You know, not long. Let's go for it. You're selling your beloved board. You had to. Lots of people asked you if you would, and it makes sense, doesn't it? You don't need a 14-foot hardboard sitting around in your living room, as much as it's got many, many stories and, you know, great history to it. But you're selling it to, and that I think is going to pay for you to go to Africa and open the
so myself and Alfie obviously need to go. I was heading there anyway, and normally I self-fund the trip, so we don't take any money from the charity. So you know, that will pay for my flights, my accommodation, and hopefully might get a bit more than we hope for. So it'll allow me to take Alfie to capture all that, because it'd be amazing for us to share that journey of us going to Africa with another video to show what happened after the paddle, sort of beyond the paddle. So hopefully that'll be me and Alfie will go there with that. We've got, I think, I put the minimum the reserve on it as £1,000, and the first bid came in at 1,500, and we've had about 10 bidders on it so far, and it's on 2,000 at the moment. And it's actually, he won't mind me saying it's the team at SUPhub Northern Ireland who is winning the bid at the moment. SUPhub Northern Ireland, and Ian, who's there, he was a great support, because when I arrived in Belfast, one of the crew, I won't say who, misplaced my cold weather gloves, and they borrowed them, and we think they left them on the side on shore. So I had no. We were going to Scotland with no cold weather gloves, and Ian, God bless his soul, he reached out to me, and he come down and he bought me a set in town, and he brought them to the boat, and he gave me a set of cold weather sort of sailing gloves, which was amazing. And he sent a message last night saying, I would like to become the new highest bidder at 2,000. So he's in the lead at the moment. So he's the man to beat. He's at £2,000, which is amazing. And thank you to Gareth at Get on the Water UK and SIC Maui UK, who've let me keep the board and arranged all that. Gareth also at Blackfish Paddles, who let me keep the paddle as well. I think I'll keep the paddle as a bit of a memento. You know, it was a great paddle. The Blackfish Biento, you know, served me well. My weapon of choice.
Yeah, definitely keep that paddle. You might know by now, but a paddler's kit, the most important thing is their paddle. They will always tell you that. They might lend you the board, but they're very, very shy at lending you their paddle. Hang on to that paddle. we've been doing the WYLIE Diaries in the Paddler magazine. You've had great support from magazines all over the place, the Paddler and Stand Up Paddle Mag. I'd like to big those guys up because they've been really supportive of your journey. And we've got the WYLIE Diary, which part 3 will be going in January. So if you haven't checked that out, get hold of that. Oh, Jordan, it feels like, I feel like I've had my left arm cut off because, because it's finished. I mean, there is still stuff going on and obviously we're still supporting you, but it's certainly been my life for the last 6 months. It's been very, very intense. I know it has for you and all of the team and all your supporters. There've been some amazing people supporting you throughout this whole thing. And I would love to say thank you to them. And I know that you would too. We can't name them all because your list is massive. I want to say thank you for letting us be part of your journey because you really supported us as well. So thank you for that.
No, thank you. I couldn't agree more. I think, from the very first day we got on the water in Essex, all the way through to getting off just, at Thurso before John O'Groats, the support we've had has been absolutely incredible, especially from the SUP community. I think it's one of the most humble sort of adventure communities that I've ever come across. I've never met so many people in my life who just want to help, whether it's share advice, whether it's donate, whether it's help with kit, equipment, from helping with beds or logistics or whatever it is. There's always been somebody who has wanted to help. And although my team, the official team, was on the Great British Paddle, actually that was extended to pretty much the Great British public and people like yourselves who constantly went above and beyond. I always had someone to speak to. I never went for nothing. So as much as it was brutally hard at times, I always knew that there was so many people who I could reach out to for whatever it was. I didn't go without. So it wasn't as hard as maybe it looked in some of the films in that respect, because I had so much support. And on behalf of me, my whole team and everybody involved, we're so grateful to everybody, and especially you, Sarah, who've been a legend with SUPjunkie throughout, covering and promoting us and raising money and everything. It's been an absolute honor, and hopefully when when the world calms down and gets back to some normality, it'll be great to meet at one of the festivals or the SUP events all these people, because amazingly most of the people who supported, I didn't meet most of them. It was only on the South Coast really where I got to engage when the COVID rules were relaxed, but most of the people who sent me lovely messages and donated, all these paddle people, I didn't get to meet. It was all virtual, so I would love to shake their hand and have a drink with you all in the future. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do that. I've got a few thoughts up my sleeve as to get you involved in the SUP community, because they would love to meet you and just give you a big round of applause for what you've done, because going back to this journey from the very start, this was an incredible thought of what to do. The Great British Paddle, paddling around Great Britain, people would have said you were mad. Would it happen? It definitely would have happened. We know that now. You made it over halfway and you would have done it. There's no doubt, as I said earlier, there's no doubt in my mind and many other people's mind that you would have done it, but that's not what it was about. It's about raising the money. So let's leave it on everybody. If you've watched this video, you've enjoyed it and you haven't donated, just pop a little something in the pot for Jordan and get him to that 100k. Because
also, if you're watching as well, I think it's also important to tell people, because I know a lot of people got paddle boards and things for Christmas. I saw lots of Facebook presents of paddle boards and things. I think I would say to people, just go for it, just dream big. A lot of people don't believe me, but I never had any experience really when I started this. I learned the hard way. I paddled a couple of times on a local river in Basingstoke, maybe 4 or 5 times before I took on this. So don't let anybody tell you can't achieve anything in life. Don't let anybody tell you you're not good enough. If you want something, dream big, have the courage and conviction to get on the water and go for it. Always make safety your number one priority. But it's an amazing community, just get out there and it's the best. I used to think running was the best medication in the world, but getting on the water is definitely up there as well. That blue therapy. And the absolute highlight for me was paddling alongside dolphins, grey seals, ospreys, sea otters, whatever, engaging with nature. Scotland, even as a proud Englishman, Scotland was tough, but it was by far the most beautiful, as brutal as it was as well. It was a real privilege to paddle the west coast of Scotland.
Yeah, how lovely. Yeah, a blue therapy night, it's become massive this year for the very reason that we're all stuck in, you know, we're in lockdown, we're having to cope with things that we've never had to cope with before. So I think there are, you know, paddleboarding was big last year, it's been even bigger this year, and let's hope that continues and the paddleboarding community just grows, because it is.
And speak with and the Water Skills Academy as well. And I don't want to start doing shout outs because I'll never end, because there's that many people to thank. But if you are thinking about getting into paddleboarding and you do want a little bit of a pointer here or there, Ben, Chris, John Cavell, speak to the WSA and the Water Skills Academy, because again, they were another group of legends from the outset. I spoke to them most days on the water. Incredible people. And some of I took a 2-week course with Johnny Cavell at WSA before I went, and I probably wouldn't have survived 10 minutes if I didn't just spend that 2 weeks with him and the tips he gave me. I think it was a shock to him when he saw what I wasn't capable of when I turned up.
Probably had a bit of a giggle when he went home and said, you know,
yeah, I'm sure he did. Yeah.
No, I big up WSA as well. I'm an ambassador for them, and I think they're amazing. And I think, yeah, going back to if you're a newbie and you just want to have a bit of safety advice, and go and have a lesson, go and have a good lesson. But they're really into adventures and things. So I've got a couple of courses booked with them, so I can't wait. Jordan, thank you once again for your time, and bloody well done, amazing. And just enjoy your time and your peace. Get out running, you know, do something for that, you know, noggin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and embrace your family, and you know, just have a wonderful time. And let's look forward to 2021. Bit more fundraising. Let's get you to that 100k, and see you on your next part of your journey, which is going to Africa with young Alfie and getting that school built. You're incredible. Absolutely. It's been a pleasure, and it's not over yet.
Thank you so much for everything. I can't give you enough thank yous. And yeah, just keep doing what you do, because you're a very inspirational woman as well, and you've been so much help to a lot of people. And the SUPjunkie message, you know, it's not commercial. It's there for the right reasons, and you know, you spread a lot of positivity. So continue to do more of that. The world needs more Sarahs and SUPjunkies.
Oh, bless you, and you too as well. That's why we get on. Thank you very much, Jordan. It's been a pleasure today.
Take care. Bye bye.
Take care.